Hi, and welcome to Talking Cars with Consumer Reports. I'm Tom Muchler.
I'm Gabe Shenhorn.
And I'm Jake Fisher.
On this episode, we're going to talk about hybrid cars. We always get lots of questions about hybrids. And actually, last week, they've been in the news quite a bit. It's the continuing saga of the Ford C-Max hybrid and its ratings. Can you give us a brief summary of this ongoing story?
Sure. When we tested the C-Max, we found the fuel economy was much less than the stated EPA. The EPA numbers were 47, 47, 47. 47 city, 47 highway, 47 combined. Our tests showed it at 37, and we've
Overall combined,
which 10 miles per gallon, that's quite a discrepancy. We've seen discrepancies before, but that's a lot. What we
By
found
comparison,
out,
I think a Prius has about 5.
Prius is in that range, but
And most cars are dead on.
80% of the cars are dead on or just 1 mile per gallon away. So with the C-Max, lo and behold, what we found out was actually Ford was using basically a loophole in the EPA rules. So what the EPA allowed Ford to do was not actually take the numbers of the C-Max, but take the numbers off of the Ford Fusion hybrid and apply them to the C-Max because it has the same powertrain and a similar weight.
But wait a minute.
but it's a higher volume car, so it's allowed.
But that seems kind of crazy because a Fusion has completely different aerodynamics.
It's completely different
That
aerodynamics.
little box that's a C-Max.
It's a completely different platform.
So these test results were never test results. They were just
Apparently
copied.
they are from the same weight class, which makes us wonder how wide is that window of weight class.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. I mean, the aerodynamics are completely different. I mean, the C-Max is actually based on a Focus rather than a Fusion.
So what did Ford do?
Well, what EPA actually wound up and tested the C-Max, which we found out, and actually looked at it, and lo and behold, it wasn't 47, it was actually 41 overall. Ford actually did some changes to the C-Max, and then they wound up giving it its own number, not borrowed from the Ford Fusion hybrid, and it'll be 43 going forward.
And that's with the software changes for 13.
With some software
Raising
changes.
the electric drive threshold and speed threshold and other things.
But
still, it's kind of crazy. I mean, hybrid buyers buy the car because of fuel economy, and they feel good if they can beat the number. I am driving virtuously. If I drive a Prius, it's rated around 49 or 50, I could get 52, 53 out of it on my commute. You don't have a chance in hell of doing that with that C-Max.
Ford actually shot themselves in the foot here because the real story is that Ford actually makes a very impressive hybrid system.
It is.
But that story got lost because they were so hyper-focused on the 47, 47, 47 that it actually, the focus of the story was on the difference between what we found and what other customers found of the actual fuel economy and the EPA. And the fact that this car really delivers, and 37 mpg for this kind of car is really good, that got lost.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very nice car that gets 37 miles per gallon. A Fusion hybrid got 39 miles per gallon in our test. That's compared to 25 for a 1.6 liter Fusion.
That's impressive.
That's all impressive.
Well, that beats the Camry hybrid by one.
right. And that actually, that is the highest fuel economy we've ever seen for a midsize sedan. I mean, that is a very impressive thing, but it's all about your expectations.
Right.
So, if you go to, say you go to a fancy restaurant, okay, and the meal cost $10. Wow, that's a great deal. But if they told you it's only $5, and you go there and he's like, but you promised it was $5, but it's $10, they're lying to you. It's misrepresenting.
I'm going to be
and
pissed
you're going to
off.
be pissed because you were told one thing, and it doesn't matter. You lose sight of that I was getting a great deal. And this is the problem. It was misleading the customers who bought this car. They wound up with a very nice car that gets great fuel economy, but when they're told something that's not true, and this car never got 47 miles per gallon in EPA testing, period. That's what we found out.
Right.
They're going to be very disappointed.
I want to talk more about expectations when it comes to hybrid cars. To go to the bigger subject of hybrids. Like we said, you buy a Ford Fusion hybrid. That gets you 39 in our test instead of the 25 in Norma Fusion. You get a Camry hybrid. that gives you 38 instead of 27 that we got out of the so many numbers. I mean, a Prius gets you 44 miles per gallon, or 43 in the plug-in version that we're showing in this video. But not all hybrids are the same.
Of course not.
I mean, look at a Chevy Malibu. A Malibu 4-cylinder with the 2.5 liter gets 26. The Malibu Eco only gets 29. What's the deal?
Well, that's a very half-ass, for lack of a better term, hybrid.
No, it's a good term.
And it's a mild hybrid.
What does that mean?
GM doesn't even want to call it a hybrid. They call it e-assist. So, I mean, without getting into the technicalities here, that is a lower cost kind of technology, and it gains you 3, 4, 5 miles per gallon.
Yeah, but I mean,
over the regular
it can
one.
never power the car on battery alone.
Well, I just want to pick up what Gabe said here. You know, and for GM, not even calling it a hybrid, calling it something else, they're doing the right thing.
Right.
Because they're managing those
They're not
expectations. Because
overpromising.
they aren't. And there's nothing wrong with GM coming out with this mild hybrid system, because it's a great system. It works, it does a lot of really good things. For instance, it manages the stop-start. We see a lot of stop-start with cars now. And when you have a hybrid, when you have a big electric motor that helps you get going, it becomes a non-issue. It works smoothly.
It smooths it out.
But it does some great things. It saves your brakes. Instead of always using your brakes, you could actually use the regenerative braking to slow you down. It does a lot of the great things. It doesn't cost as much as a traditional hybrid. But if they go and say, here's our hybrid, and they have a hybrid, and ours is cheaper, that's misleading the public, and that's where the disappointment comes.
You're right, and they really haven't done that. A lot of questions that we get about hybrids are asking about battery life. Hello, Tom and team. I do a heavy amount of highway driving, but I'm concerned about battery life in hybrids because battery driving doesn't allow much recharging because you don't use regen brakes too much, and therefore potential premature battery replacement. But I'm interested in the benefits of hybrids. Do you have any suggestions? Another question. Any pointers for buying used hybrids? Many people warn you against buying used hybrids because of battery life.
So first question, I do a lot of highway mileage. Don't buy a hybrid, because that's not where they give you the benefit. Where they give you the benefit is slowing down and accelerating, and that's what they do best. If you have a lot of highway mileage, and a lot of people make this mistake, so because they're like, I drive a lot, I want to save fuel. Makes sense. So I will go and look and I'll get a hybrid. Problem is, that's not going to really help you. Look at a car that has great highway fuel economy. You can look at our numbers. We do the Steady 65 test. That's going to give you good indication. Diesels. Diesels
where
work great.
Diesels come in.
Well, you know, to be fair though, a Camry hybrid, yeah, it's a hybrid. Hybrids do better in the city. You know, they max, their potential is better in the city, there's no question. But I mean, the hybrid fuel economy of a Camry hybrid or a Prius is still pretty good.
Still pretty good.
But you have much cheaper options. You have Mazda 6 that pushes 40, close to 40. A lot of cars push close to 40 miles per gallon if you're doing a lot of highway miles. But diesels. Yeah, you know, the Cruise diesel, 49 miles per gallon on the highway.
That's incredible. I mean, there are other diesels that get similar highway miles per gallon, and 51 with a Passat diesel. Thing is, when in town driving, the diesel power delivery may not be as linear, and there might be some clatter and other NVH.
You pay a bit more for diesel too.
And you pay for it. But if you're on a constant highway cruise, 65, 70 miles an hour. Diesel's the answer, and it doesn't compromise the car. You're not carrying a big battery in the back. You still have a folding rear seat. You have a big trunk.
Yep.
So avoiding all the pitfalls of a hybrid.
Yep, actually somebody asks, speaking of pitfalls, I wonder why we haven't seen diesel hybrids yet. Any rumored to be coming? Are you building one in your basement?
I actually am. Yeah, I'm working on it. No, well, I mean,
Will it drift?
It will definitely drift. But the problem with diesel hybrid is now you're just throwing a lot of technology at these cars and a lot of cost. So if you want to get better fuel economy, I mean, you just can't throw everything at it. I mean, we saw, it's not a diesel hybrid, but you look at the Volkswagen Jetta turbo and hybrid and direct injection and all these different things, and now you wind up with a small car that's $28,000. So I think you kind of got to pick and choose, and you got to find that best compromise.
I mean, there is a diesel hybrid. It's the Volvo V60. It's sold overseas. It's
there are
pile
others.
of
I
money.
mean, Peugeot Citroën makes a diesel hybrid of some sort, but you know, it's a lot of money. I'm not sure how successful it is.
Yeah. Speaking of how successful cars are, another question. Now that the Volt is priced competitively with similar quality vehicles, they cut the Volt's price by $5,000. Will sales increase even further?
They might. I mean, now it enters its, third year? So, I mean, naturally, it lost some of its newness
momentum, yeah.
and the momentum. But to keep that sales momentum until the freshening, I think that's the right thing to do.
I'm gonna argue against you.
Oh,
Surprise.
I'd welcome that.
There, I think the $5,000 price adjustment is just reflecting what's been happening in reality. Because Volts have been heavily discounted. You've been able to lease them for $269 a month. I have a friend who's doing that, loves the car. People who have Volts love the car because they buy into the concept.
Right. Leasing is definitely the way to go with a Volt.
Yeah, I'm just not convinced sales are going to go up a whole lot.
Well, I think there's a lot more choices available now. And if you look at what Ford's doing with the Energy, we're seeing these hybrid vehicles that are extended range, so they have a larger battery. I mean, Ford may be getting that same kind of 30 miles before you have to put on the internal combustion engine. So
You're talking about plug-in hybrids.
plug-in hybrids, exactly.
That's true. And a C-Max Energy, where you can get 20, 25 miles of electric-only range, it's a much more practical
It's a
car than
much
the
more
Volt.
practical, much roomier inside, and potentially lower cost too. So there's other ways of kind of skinning that cat as rather than the way the Volt's doing it.
Yeah, I kind of want to see what the second generation Volt
Yeah,
does.
I mean, the thing is, though, with the Volt, I mean, you know that the car is distinct, much like the Prius. One of the geniuses of the Prius is that it's the hybrid. You look at it, you know
Right.
it's a hybrid. The Volt,
Exactly.
same. It's part electric, whatever, it just registers as the car that's electric, that's highly advanced, rather than another version of the Ford C-Max or the Fusion, which, kind of blends in.
Speaking of cars that are very advanced in electric, we got a question. Do any of the road test editors or engineers plan on buying a Tesla Model S?
Unfortunately, we don't get paid
Am I getting a
enough.
raise, boss, to, yeah. No, we don't get paid enough. But I think the third generation car, when they come out with the BMW 3 Series sized car, 40,000, if they pull off that holy grail, $40,000, 200 miles range, ooh.
Well, we'll see what their business model is going down the line. I mean, I keep on kind of having my heart of hearts of these ideas where, maybe they're showing these things where they take the battery out and they swap the battery.
I'm going to wait for that.
Well, I mean, the question is, when they come out with that car, imagine this. What if you just bought the car and you didn't buy the battery? The car becomes really cheap, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then what if you pay them a certain price to, service your battery? So they own the battery.
Yeah, exactly. You don't own the battery.
Right.
You don't have to ask questions what happens with the battery after the
Exactly.
warranty expires.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Exactly, and you basically lease the battery service and you own the car. So there's different ways. I mean, every couple of weeks we hear Elon Musk has got some new idea of teleporting people and things. So who knows what's going to happen in 2 years?
Actually, we need to go back and answer that question of what about battery life in hybrids? Are used hybrids a good buy?
Well, it depends on what it is. We have a lot of history, obviously, on the Prius because the Prius has been out so much.
They sold a ton of them. Yeah.
And they sold a ton of them, and there was a lot of worrying about what's going to happen when my battery goes bad. Well, into Prius, it turns out, one, the car is unbelievably reliable. We have data going back 11 years on this vehicle. Two, when the battery goes bad, which is a very rare occurrence, it's really cheap to replace. The truth is you don't go to Toyota and buy a brand new battery. Just like if I had a 10-year-old car, I wouldn't buy a new transmission when the transmission fails. You get one out of a salvage yard, and you could buy Prius batteries out of salvage yards for $300-400. So that's one case. Now we have seen some issues with the Honda Civic hybrid,
Right.
though. That has had some problems. So it depends on the vehicle. It's just like any vehicle. Look at the reliability. Should I buy a car with a transmission? Because transmissions are very expensive to replace in 8 years. Depends on what the car is.
I can say that I've recommended used Priuses for a bunch of people, and they're all happy. I mean, if you're just concentrated on a transportation, economical, reliable transportation solution, just practical, get me from point A to point B, nothing beats it.
Yeah, I think the answer is a Toyota hybrid, I'd trust the battery. Honda hybrid, not so much. Someone also raised the point of all these electric cars and all these hybrid cars that making batteries has an environmental impact. But I mean, there was something you touched on is that people think that these batteries are going to sit in junkyards and leach into no, batteries are worth a lot of money. I mean, there's a lot of content there.
Yeah, there's a lot of going on in recycling the batteries. These large lithium-ion batteries. There's actually a secondary market for these.
Also repurposing them for other applications
Right.
other than automotive.
That's true. People are using them for solar power, things
Right.
like that. You know, the thing is, the person who asked this question on Facebook looked at his profile. He loves motocross motorcycles. You know, questions about environmental impact, you know, two-stroke engines, driving off-road, you know, do you eat meat? You know, do you have a big environmental impact there? I mean, it's a very nebulous
I mean,
question.
you're concerned about the environment, I'd say just ride a bicycle. I mean, any car that you have to use resources, you dig them out of the ground, the lithium, the metal, the rubber, the plastics, the composites, I mean, it's not going to be environmentally sound.
Cars
I mean,
are
let's
bad,
not pretend.
basically. Is what
Yeah.
we're saying.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. No,
But we like them very much. Yeah.
But the issue is that I think we have to forget about this mindset of, you know, my kid's toy, the batteries were, so I take the double A's and I throw them in the garbage. You're not supposed to put them in the garbage, but most people do.
Sure.
This is not what's going on. These batteries from these cars are not going into the garbage. They're not going into a dump. There is a secondary market for them, and
Right.
they will live on.
Right. What's important, though, that we should notice is, as we said earlier, hybrids are not the only ways to get great fuel economy. We have behind us a Mazda 3. The redesign for 2014, this is a pre-production car, but production cars are going on sale as we speak. It's a very nice car.
Very nice car. And the SkyActiv technology, which is light body and a very efficient engine, high compression ratio, very direct automatic transmission, all of that, in our experience, with the 6, the CX-5, they all got terrific fuel economy. And I'm expecting this one to get, I mean, I think I've seen 35, 36 mpg, but it's a manual.
And your right foot's pretty heavy.
It can be at times.
Yeah. I mean, you know, usually car companies, when they bring us press cars, this is typical. You get very loaded cars. You know, you get cars that are, you know, they have every option. Mazda did something different. They brought us a rather basic car, but they brought it to us with a 6-speed manual.
They heard all my begging.
Yeah,
It's really nice.
It's a joy.
Well, you know, and here's the thing about it. It's like, you know, our hybrids for everybody. Well, if you actually are someone who actually wants to drive because you enjoy driving and you want that fun driving experience, you know what? Generally, hybrids are not for you because most of them have CVT transmissions,
Right.
continually variable transmission, which honestly, it's so much isolation between.
It's a disconnect.
It's a disconnect between what the engine's doing and what you're doing, what your foot's doing. You feel removed. So, I mean, if you're a driving enthusiast, you know, Prius not for you.
No,
but
I mean-
there are choices for you.
Well, that's
and
right. I mean,
Mazda
I
is doing a great
I was
job.
driving that Mazda 3. I was getting about 36, 37 on my commute, driving the stick shift, enjoying the hell out of that car.
And it's a very,
Just
and
enjoying it.
Mazda, this is what Mazda does really well. It's a very solid vehicle. You feel very connected. The stick is just great. It's precise.
Oh, it
Very
reminds me of a Miata, which I want to buy another one. But, yeah, you know, and actually this brings me to our final question that was on YouTube. I really love these car talks, thank you. Can you help me with my first car? I'm stuck between a new Ford Focus SE or a Honda Civic LX, both 2013. Any other cars I should consider? Also, is buying a manual really worth it for the fun to drive factor?
Yes.
Yeah,
If you,
Buying a
if you do
manual
it
is-
well, then definitely. I mean, if you haven't mastered it, then I wouldn't send a young kid to buy a manual if they haven't
But they can
gone
learn.
to
But
the
they can
Gabe Schenner
learn.
School of Manual Transmission Driving.
I shudder at the thought of the Gabe Schenner School of Driving. You probably wear big dunce caps and stuff when you install it. I mean, honestly, learning to drive a stick isn't that hard.
It's not, but it takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot
practice.
of, there is a lot more judgment here than with an automatic. It's a whole different ballgame.
You could ask yourself, do you know how to ride a bicycle? Do you know how to ride it? I mean, it's just like, you know what, I mean, driving a motorcycle is a lot of fun too, and that's much harder to figure out how to do
it's
that.
much harder.
But when you do it, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's help this guy,
Yeah.
this guy between the Focus and the Civic.
Well, I mean, my answer is that car. I mean, we have not tested the Mazda. I'm going to be all disclaimers. Consumer Reports has not thoroughly
Going out
tested the
on a limb
Mazda
there,
3
huh?
and first year reliability. That's a really nice car.
Well, here's another one to throw out. Wait till this one goes on sale and get the last generation of it, because they're going to be selling those at discounts, and that is a fun to drive car. That's
It is.
It's louder than this.
it is
But,
louder,
yeah.
but you know,
But-
Civic's pretty noisy too.
Yeah, Civic is pretty loud. I mean, it's a decent car. Civic's a very practical choice.
It is very practical, holds its value, reliable.
Actually, one other thing, going back to hybrids quick, speaking of practical and reliable, you really didn't like the Prius C? I'm planning to buy a new car in the next couple of months, and that's the one car I've test driven so far. I liked it. Of course, except for my current car, a Golf. I haven't spent more than $6,000 on a new car, so I'm used to a non-luxury feel.
Yeah.
The Prius C is a depressing.
It's a subcompact that takes a ride on the Prius name, but it's actually closer to Toyota Yaris.
Yeah, and Toyota doesn't do tiny cars well here.
Yeah, he needs to drive more modern cars, is really what it comes
Yeah,
down to.
she needs to shop.
You know?
She needs to try some other cars. I want to put the focus, I'm sorry, I want to put the Prius C in perspective. A couple episodes ago, I said some negative things about the Ford Focus ST. And you cannot do that. The interweb will come and smite you down. Because one of the comments I got, and this one hurt me, was that I bet the guy in the middle seat drives a Prius C.
Ooh, that's low.
I know that sums up where the Prius C is. It's reliable, it's economical, but it's a penalty box. If you're going to buy Prius, buy Prius, buy the real car.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, if you're interested in a Yaris, but you're like, it's not quite practical enough, you know, and then you get the Prius C.
I need something that's even more of a hair shirt than a Yaris.
So.
Yeah, I know some media said it was fun to drive. They're on crack. It's that car.
Well, I mean, if you really like that car, another option, and Gabe said it before, get a used Prius. I mean, it shares the powertrain. It's a better vehicle.
Yeah, I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Prius would be a better choice. So we hope this helped answer some of your questions on hybrids. As always, thank you for listening.